sexy, spooky bones. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Skeleton Boys, a horror movie podcast. I am Rolando.
And my back and neck hurt because I went to a concert and it was great. And I'm also John.
John. How do you spell it? Never mind. Just
G. Fuck. That was wrong.
Guinea. And welcome to the show. This week we are reviewing Soul Survivor. S-O-L-E, not S-O-L. No, wait. S-O-U-E. I can't spell.
Yeah, Soul Survivor. It's about a really good pair of shoes.
Yeah. With Casey Affleck.
Casey.
And Elijah Dooku. As always, John will give us the plot in 5 words. We'll give our first thoughts, and then we'll go to the spoiler analysis. But first, we go back to CV Corner. We're reviewing Chucky, Season 3, Episode 5, Death Becomes Her. Death Becomes Her. Who's the her?
Oh, you know.
Chucky.
Chucky. I don't know.
Death Becomes Her. Huh.
You know, that's a good question. I didn't really think about it. It kind of feels like they just gave whoever directed it was like, I love this movie. So now we're going to call it Death Becomes Her.
Because all of them were named after movies, right?
Yes. But at least some of them have like some sort of like relation to the movie.
Yeah, like it very loosely
But
ties to.
Yeah, this one I can't think of it at all.
Well, I'm getting nothing from IMDb. It just says Chucky wrestles with his mortality while Jake and Devin take their romance to the next level. Oh yeah, we have some hotel sex.
Yeah, they should too. Yeah, now I'm all hung up on like, what did they call it? Death Becomes Her. I feel like they just didn't have any other titles.
Death Becomes.
Can't think of a single reason they would call it Death Becomes Her.
Who's the her in this? It's weird, right? Because
the first lady, but nothing.
No way it's named after the one random girl Chucky poisoned with bleach.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Death. No woman.
That could be that feels like the only plausible reason they called it that.
You see, it matches. Or her.
That's true.
She died.
Oh, and Chucky's not hung up on like gender roles and stuff like that. So maybe.
Wait, I think I know. I got it. It's not a literal like death. It's based on the premise. Death Becomes Her, right? Death Becomes Her is the one where they couldn't die, right? They achieve mortality, which is what Chucky's trying to do.
Oh, but they still rot. Yeah.
Which is what Chucky's doing. So he's kind of got some like 4D chess right there with that. Yeah. That Chucky's slowly dying and turning into like a weird freak, just like, was it Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep?
Yes. Yeah.
Got it.
Which I can relate to because I just celebrated a birthday.
You saw what?
I celebrated a birthday, so I feel it.
You feel your death is becoming you.
Yes.
Nice.
Which is funny because my birthday was this past week and it felt like 3 weeks ago.
It's been a week, right?
It's been a long week.
Yeah.
I went to 2 different concerts. I know we're not talking about Chucky, but I went to 2 different concerts. It was great. Yeah. Got to see my favorite band, the OCs, on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Compliments of my friends Hannah and Davin. Which is really nice. It was fun. But now my back hurts because I decided to hang out with the young kids in the front of the thing.
You fucking... Did you elbow anybody in the neck? like you did the other idol show?
I think by accident, and I had to like grab the guy. For people that don't know, I'm a very nice guy, but I'm kind of a large guy too. So I think like he looked at me like he was gonna be mad, and I was like, "Oh, are you okay, buddy?" He was like, "Oh, I'm fine," and he walked away. I'm like, "Okay, well, that was that." But I will say, everybody there, I just wanted to point this out because I think you'll think this is funny. Everybody that was in that general vicinity, right, which is like literally right up in the front of the stage. I would churn and sing some lyrics of the song, and they would first be like, "What?" and then be like, "Oh, fuck yeah!" and everybody would be singing. There was this one kid. I'm gonna guess some psychedelics were involved. I like looked at him and started just doing "woo woo," which is a part of the song. Like it's like everybody was doing it, and you just stared at me. And according to my partner, he looked like he was fucking deathly horrified. Like he was staring at me like I was about to murder him, and I was like, "Okay, bud." And he's like, I'm like, "Okay." That was great.
Yeah.
I was trying to help this kid have a good time, but he was just like, I clocked him again later, or not clocked him, but like I looked at him again later, and he was just like staring at everything like he was freaking the fuck out.
Yeah. You made it unforgettable for him. I'll never forget it.
Never forget that guy. I don't remember what he looks like. I don't know his name. That guy.
Yeah. But he'll remember you.
Yeah. Kind of like this episode of Chucky, where Chucky is getting really old and giving up on life because he's like, I'm dying.
I can relate.
Who cares?
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah.
And then and I can relate with this part too. I called Jennifer Tilly. She said the same thing to me. She was like, "You know what, Chuck, it's not like you. You're going to go out in a blaze of glory. Just go out, I don't know, fighting." So Chucky's like, "That's what I'm going to do." So he kills the president.
Yeah. So actually, yeah, that's actually the most interesting thing that happened because Devin Sawa usually dies the second to last episode, but here he is dying in the middle of the season. This feels like a soft reboot of the season. Does that kind of make sense? Like, kind of like they had to do something big to kind of push the story in a new direction. Now the president's dead.
The president's dead.
Yeah.
We have pretty much established that there's ghosts.
Yes, there's now ghosts walking around Pennsylvania 1600.
Yes.
The White House. Yeah.
Big White House with the big windows.
The only house
but there's
that's still up that was built by slaves. So
good for
good for America. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm wondering if we're gonna get like we've gotten, I feel like a good chunk of the people that have died at the White House have made an appearance of ghosts.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I think the bodyguard that took a liking to the kid appeared to him. I don't know why he decided to try to scare him, but
right.
But the kid is like, I think he was trying to warn me. I'm like, how the fuck did you get that out of that kid? I'd just be like, I just saw that guy blow his brains out like that.
I think the young kid and the kids are finally, the younger kid is that had Chucky that thought it was his dead brother
Jacob.
Yeah. They seem like he's now on board with like Chucky's not a good dude, right? He's the one kind of pushing all of these like supernatural storylines.
That's true. Because for the most part, he's also kind of
wiener kid.
Yeah, well, because there's a lot of things like how could you still think this is your brother reincarnated? He's aging rapidly. Like,
I'm fucking dying. That's my favorite line last
Does it
year.
sound like him?
That season, yeah.
I swear he probably fucking saw him kill a couple people. He's not questioning it.
He's like, Jacob, what are you doing?
Why are you sad? Just like, shut up.
Why do you look different? Why do you sound different? He said.
I did like the part where because I'm fucking dying. I did like the part though where the kid goes. I forgot the kid's name,
Yeah,
but
not important.
everybody says Jacob at least 30,000 times in each
Yeah.
episode. So I know the name of this kid. We didn't know was the other son until like an episode
Yeah.
ago. But where he's like trying to comfort Chucky, thinking he's Jacob, and Chucky's like, "Get the fuck away!" And then he's like, "I don't care, whatever." He
Yeah.
lets him like caress him, and then he's like, "Oh, let me go help you get something." And what like he starts to see like blood splatter near where he's grabbing something, and then he imagines the security guard blowing his head off, which was Chucky.
Mhm.
And then like an eye, like
The eye.
like the skin around the eye, which is not how that works.
The eye
But
socket? No, not the eye socket. It's the eye. The retina.
it was like but it was more of like the chunk of skin where the eyebrow's at, all the way to like below the lower eyelid, and then an eye, like the front piece of an eye, because we all know eyeballs are a little bit bigger than people think. But looked at him, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but there's ghosts. That's the important thing.
I did have a kid I grew up with who could take out her eye.
Nice. Oh, I knew a couple people like that.
Yeah.
I remember when it was like show and tell in science class. I'm like, but I remember at that time I was like, this is 7th grade, but okay. I'm not gonna bring anything. I don't care. But she came out and like she placed it on the overhead projector so everybody could see the
Oh
fake eye.
God.
I'm like, damn.
No, she.
And even then, I remember thinking, she picked it up. So like, yeah, this is one of my fake eyes, blah blah blah. And then she put it back in her head. I'm like, does she need to clean it? Like I was so concerned the whole time. Like I don't. I mean, if she's used to it, I guess. But
Yeah. Disgusting.
yeah, I was like, I don't. She knows what she's doing, right? She's the one that has to live with it. But like, maybe wash it off. I don't know. Maybe water's bad for your eye. I don't know.
I don't.
These are all the questions I had.
Just tell us in the comments how to take care of a glass eye.
We'll call them falsies.
Falsies.
I think it sounds cool.
That's what they're called, falsies. Is that? No. Okay.
I think falsies are really the eyelash thingies, but
Okay. Yeah. No. My this little girl should take her eye out in the line for the bus. So.
Will she do it to cut in front of everybody, or?
I think somebody. I kind of got there late, but I think they were like egging her on to do it, and then she finally just did it, and so like everyone was immediately disgusted and grossed out by what they were looking at. I don't think she cared. Either way, but see, what's funny is like there were even some teacher assistants or like people that worked there that were like, "Oh yeah, let's see this." They were like not necessarily stopping what was happening, but they didn't exactly encourage it either. So I think everybody was just curious to see what it looks like.
What's your eye?
What's your eyeball look like without an eye? Yeah, we grew up in very small towns, guys. If it sounds like we were a bunch of yokels, fucking country yokels, then yes, we are.
I mean, basically, right?
Yeah.
It's like if there was anything weird about your body, people would be like, oh, "Let's see it." I'm like, no.
Get away from me. Yeah.
It's
Weird. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else to talk about Chucky? Let's see.
Tiffany's probably going to get out soon.
Tiffany.
But Chucky has a conversation with Tiffany over the phone.
Right.
Because I think he sees her on television and he gets very like sad, even though he's the guy that did all that, because he's going to die. He's like,
right.
Just missing her.
Mm-hmm.
And then even though she was trying to be mean, because she's like, okay, you're going to get reincarnated. Who gives a fuck? And he's like, no, this is the long dark nap. He has like a long monologue. It's fucking great. Fucking love Brad Dourif.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically is telling him, this doesn't sound like you. Why wouldn't you go out in a blaze of glory? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So he kills the president. Did
Uh,
I already mention that? I don't know, maybe.
yeah. I think we've talked about the president.
Because I can repeat that part again in case somebody walked away from the podcast the past like 5 minutes I can repeat it so they don't have to rewind. No, just kidding.
What else happened?
Okay, we already
Lexi
talked
and
about
the
Jake and Devin
son,
have
they have
sex.
sex. Very boring. Very unnecessary. Like not that I'm against like teenage sex, but it just seemed like there. I was never
Oh, are you all for it, Rolando?
not against
You
it.
heard it here.
But what was it? It wasn't something that I was I guess I'm a fan of the show. I've seen every episode. That was not a storyline that I wanted to see fulfilled. I had no interest in that. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah. Stop airing your dirty laundry, Don Mancini. 'Cause
I know.
we don't need to know about your upbringing and killer dolls and. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It felt a little forced, right? It wasn't.
Like they've been building it up since last season, or
Yeah,
that
kinda.
they're not like sexual or romantic with each other.
And now all of a sudden they are.
Well, what's his face was pushing
Yeah.
it, like kind of forcing, kind of like forcing the other one to do it.
Jake.
Jake was kind of being the predatorial about Devin to kind of
well,
put out.
He's clearly on gear. That kid is juicing. You see, he's
He's on the
jacked.
junk. He's fucking.
It's like. It's like last season they told him like, hey, your sex scene's gonna be in the third season, so he's like, oh shit. So he just started like hitting steroids and working out all the time because he knew he was gonna be shirtless for like 5 seconds.
He hit the Gold's Gym in Santa Monica. And so,
Yeah.
which is, for everybody knows, it's a very gay gym. It's a very gay gym.
But
I thought it was super weird
Yeah.
that I'm just jumping around, but like I thought it was super weird that what's his face? One of his bodyguards is like pushing for one of the boys to hook up with the girl. Did you catch that?
the older
kid is now kind of like Lexi wants to start. The way it seems is like Lexi's like, no, I like you for reals now, and now we're gonna fuck each other, date each other. Excuse me. And like, sort of, he has this one bodyguard who's kind of, they've shown a couple of times, just kind of like watch him and be like, kind of like indifferent to their young teenage love. And now this episode, he actually like gives him a pep talk and like he goes for a kiss and everything. So
Yeah, which makes me. I kind of hope they kill
Lexi.
the other kid.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, there won't be any like, I don't know, man. There won't be any like stakes of. Well, we know this for a fact that he's not going to kill any of his characters. They're too precious to him. So for sure, we'll probably lose this kid.
Even they're kind of setting up that at least one of them is gonna die. I
It's true.
kind of feel like it's gonna be Devin.
Devin's always been kind of like a. It's funny because it started with Jake being the main character, and then it's kind of expanded to this trio. And I would say it even outwardly expanded to where like Chucky gets more screen time than these kids at this point, like his through storylines and stuff.
Yeah, and that's what like the first couple episodes we barely got the kids, and it was mostly about Devin Sawa, and now it's obviously not about Devin Sawa at all.
Right, he died pretty early this season, unexpectedly, which was fun. Because then it's like, well, how did you do the rest of the show, rest of the season? Vice president?
Yeah, what are
There's
they
no
gonna
vice
do?
president.
Yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, we just haven't been introduced to one. Yeah, weird. Oddly enough,
Unless they just like pretend he's not dead.
I have a feeling that's what they're gonna do with that guy, the investigator guy, the first lady hired,
Mhm.
and how now he's like, you're dealing with something supernatural, that stuff. Because he did show her the footage of the kid that Devin Sawa thought was Jacob in the Phantom of the Opera get up, and I think we both thought was Chucky, right? Just fucking around.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was actually Jacob. and then he disappears.
So, yeah, I mean that certainly these ghosts are going to be like try to warn or stop Chucky from doing whatever it is he's doing now. I mean, he's in a way you see it kind of plays out like he's content with his death, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, 3 more episodes. Let's see what happens.
Sure. Well, they weren't sure if they were going to get renewed for another season, so it makes it sound like
Technically, I don't think they have. So
yeah, no, they haven't. But the way those conversations go, it makes it seem like, oh, there could be another season.
yeah, at some point, you know, NBC or whoever owns it, Universal, Comcast.
CBS. I don't know. I guess that's the parent.
They could greenlight them, at any point, right?
Yeah,
but you have to think like it's going to be if they go into the 4th season, it's going to be more money, pay the actors more, right? Or they do like a budget cut and then it's like even weaker.
Which is, I think, what primarily happens, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess Don Mancini's got a lot of say.
Yeah, theoretically, like if they're like on their 4th season, they should be in the past. Like everything is supposed to like everybody should get paid more and there should be more budget. But you and I both know like that's not really like a reality currently for productions.
No. Which is maybe why they killed Devon Sawa off already.
Can afford them.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck this. I gotta go do the next Final Destination movie.
These kids are nobodies. It's okay. We can keep them. Just kidding. Sorry, kids. But yeah, that's this episode of Chucky. Ends with him killing the president. And yeah, Devon Sawa as the president is distracted because Jacob's ghost is trying to warn him. But much like Devon Sawa's other son as the president, even the ghost of Jacob is very dim.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have the foresight to warn him any time before the moment he decided to warn him because Chucky was right behind him.
Oh, you know what they might do is that Devon Sawa might be a ghost.
Oh.
Right? That's kind of what we're establishing now, that some of these people that die are ghosts.
Yeah, what's going to happen here? This is so weird.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's interesting in that front. It's unexpected and see what happens, see what they come up with.
It's wild because if they're ghosts, but what if they can possess their own body again temporarily? Much like the feature film.
Whoa, segue.
This week.
All right. We should probably move off that. Let's move over to our main review of Soul Survivor, Sole. John, do you want to give us the plot in 5 words?
Johnny. 5 word plot summary.
Rolando, drum roll, please. For Soul Survivor, the 1984 box office smash hit. I'm just kidding. I don't think it was. Coming in at number 3, producer woman has no friends.
It's true.
Literally nobody. Dude. I was like, I don't know. I guess that's why she's perfect for this. I don't know. Coming in at number 2 for Soul Survivor, even death recycles the cast.
Even death recycles the cast.
They have like 3 random people, then everybody else. Anyway, and coming in at number 1, it follows the Final Destination.
It follows the final, yeah. Little hint for the end of the episode. But first things first, we'll talk about Soul Survivor. So yeah, John, what you think of Soul Survivor?
I can appreciate it for what it's influenced. I think I'd mentioned before I wanted to at least say, hey, for an early 80s horror film, it was like an effort.
Mm-hmm.
But then I listed off all the movies that came out the same year. And there's like too many really good horror movies that came out. I mean, including A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I got a Night of the Comet too. I fucking love that movie. But I don't want to be too harsh on this. The story doesn't really pan out. I don't understand the rules of whatever. I guess it's death. I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wacky array of cast members, I would say. Like, there's some weird extremes. Like, there's an actress lady who's also a seer, and I'm not sure why she's there. But like, she kind of starts the movie, right? She's like, "Oh, who is this woman?" Because she saw her name written somewhere. Like, "Oh, that's the producer of the thing that you're in," and she's like, "Oh, is she okay?" Like, she knew she was the only person that survived, the sole survivor. And then that's kind of what she does the whole movie. So I didn't understand why she was there.
Yeah, the actress.
Actress, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Psychic,
they kind of like have a reason for it, but it's not like it's
the best.
Yes, yeah. I think this is a perfectly okay B movie. So come in with like low stakes, meaning like it's not like top tier.
No,
like, but
I will say, like, Hospital Massacre was in all other respects worse than this movie, but I had way more fun watching that.
Yeah, I think this one had a different like tone in mind, right? It's pretty serious, deadly serious movie. It takes itself very serious. So the things that they're showing and portraying are they're trying to make like a vibe or something, right? Because I try to make a horror movie, but see where they don't really show, like, what I mean by that is that like budgetary wise more than like aesthetically, because it's like they didn't have a plane that crashed, right? We didn't see that. We didn't really get a good.
You got, but I thought this was clever actually. But it's very student filmy. But you get a tracking shot of a bunch of people pretending to be dead with not the most realistic looking blood and guts, and then like there's one where like this dude is like half of a body.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that? And it straight up looked like it was a bunch of chicken breasts that they just shoved in front of him to make it look like guts. And then there's like one track shot. I like paused it because I thought it was super funny. There's like a leg. It was obviously like a fake leg just hanging out there.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it's like that's kind of like they quickly move on from that stuff, right? Because one of the big sticking points is that she's a survivor of like of a plane accident, right? She crashes.
She's the
sole survivor. So it's similar to like like Unbreakable, right? Or back in Final Destination. And so like,
but unlike those other movies, she does not give a flying fuck that she went through a horrific accident. She's fine.
And you kind of get like the premise there, right? Like she's in the hospital, she's like okay, and she's like flirting with the doctor who ends up becoming her boyfriend.
It's like classic, like she's a producer of a television show. Of course she's got this attitude. It's fine.
And she, and that's how the movie kind of kicks off. I actually quite like the way this movie started, in that it just has this all these exterior shots of LA at night, and then it shows we go on a bus and it's her. She's by herself and she's like sitting with patches of blood all over her shirts and stuff, in her hands, her neck, and she's like holding a gun. I was like, oh, this is what's going on. I don't know what's going on. This is cool. And then immediately our cuts to who I think the actress you mentioned that's like kind of weird in this part. Like she's the one, essentially she's the one having the visions of like these people dying, and she somehow has a connection to the supernatural, without spoiling like the supernatural aspect of this story. And that stuff's kind of like hit and miss, but the basic premise, I thought I was okay with it. I was enjoying it because it was like the basic premise is good. We're going, right? She survived. We know that somebody or some kind of like thing is trying to kill her.
Thing.
Yeah.
It's very It Follows.
Yeah.
I actually didn't mind the first. I did watch like 30 minutes of it and then decided I'm gonna finish this later. But mostly because it was like a little too slow paced for like the situation I was in at the moment. But everything about it, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like there's nothing. I feel like in It Follows, they go through with like the way that people died is what the way they looked, but in this one, they don't look. They look kind of like they're alive, but also obviously they're not.
Yeah. So it's essentially like she's gonna be.
I was gonna also mention I did like that they cast like a dude that, I thought it was a choice. He has some unique looking eyes.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking
The
about?
doctor.
No. There's like a dude that you find out is not alive later, but is one of the whatever they are stalking her.
Okay. Yeah.
And he has unique eyes. They don't. They're neither of them are looking at her, and they're also not looking the same.
Right.
direction.
Yeah. I need to talk about it. Yeah. I also was a fan of the lead. I actually liked her. I think she had a very she seemed very natural and grounded. She didn't seem like she was like struggling. She seemed like a real person. So I actually was okay with that. I was like, okay, well, I like this. I like what she's doing in the movie. And she's actually kind of like, it's almost consistent through the whole movie where she's very sarcastic. She makes a lot of jokes. And some of that's whatever, hit and miss. But I felt like the jokes or whatever, the humorous scenes that they had her in, that stuff's kind of hit and miss. But I thought like her delivery, I thought was really good. It seemed very natural. It seemed very grounded. And I was quite surprised in how much I liked her in this part. And she's like, kind of like very much in this movie. Like she's like in almost every scene in this movie. So yeah. She didn't really do, and strangely, she didn't do very much after this. She did like 2 movies and then she was out. So
can't live up to this.
I mean, I can't blame her, right? I mean, I could see like, what am I doing? Why am I, where am I going with my career after these 2 movies? But I actually liked her in this. I thought she was very good.
Yeah, I didn't think she was bad either. I don't think any of the actors are bad, but a lot of the dialogue left me wanting. I'm like, I don't like I feel like the only conversation that felt natural to me or like written was the one where the kids are playing strip poker, like the teenage kids or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And they
like that was pretty fun. But like the doctor, the workaholic doctor that she starts dating,
I thought he was fine. He was okay. I mean, serviceable.
No, but I mean, like the conversations they would have are kind of weird.
Yeah, like it's written very cutesy.
Yeah,
but I thought the way it was like blocked and the way they're just walking down whatever the park or whatever, and like that scene was fine. Even though to me that was a scene that like, okay, the dialogue is a little like they're going for it. They're trying to be cutesy and like, coupley thing or whatever. And I thought that was like a little forced, but I thought they did fine with it. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, no, that's why. Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like the actors are pretty good. It's just, all in all, I think the direction for the humans was not very good.
Or the dead. Like, the guy with the multiple eyes.
Or the dead, yeah. But like some of the choices, like her being so cavalier about what had happened to her, and then only freaking out a little bit when she's realizing people are stalking her.
Yeah, it does take her a while, about an hour into this movie, before she's like, "Oh man, maybe I should take this seriously." Yeah. Even though she's had like a couple of run-ins with this other supernatural thing. Even though it appeared to her in different quote unquote people, right? Different bodies or whatever, but it's.
Which also, yeah, I guess, well, it's not explained, right? So, I mean, hopefully that's not a spoiler, but like, it's not explained, so I have no idea.
Yeah, it's one of those where like, I think a lot of this movie is like, it's a good setup, but poor delivery at the end. Very, not, I wouldn't say poor, but it's like, because it all kind of tracks, all kind of makes sense in some ways, but it doesn't like, knock you out at the end. It just kind of just slowly happens. Things happen slowly.
And I think, unfortunately, too, let's say I caught this movie at my local rental store when I was in college or something. I would probably enjoy it a lot more back then. But now that we've sat through close to 200 other movies, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's, there's some really fun moments in it. I think for the most part, like the cinematography is pretty fun. Even though it's a little slow. The lighting I thought was great. The design aspect was pretty fucking bonkers, and I kind of liked it. Like there's one house that's got like a lime green aesthetic, like a neon lime green, and then they put a bunch of like wallpaper pattern on top of that. And I was like paying attention. I was like, all this is fresh. They like painted and wallpapered this fucking house to look like this.
This is the main protagonist, right? Her house?
Yes, her house. Yeah. That's what producer money does. I'm just kidding.
This probably was somebody's producer's house.
And then they wanted it to look different, right?
Yeah, well, he's taking the site fee for filming at his house. Producer's going to produce.
Oh, which we did. What we found out that they guerrilla shot this in Orange County for the most part.
That tracks. Yeah. I'm assuming all the exterior stuff was...
Probably, yeah.
That's not really something to, like, brag about.
No.
That's not something that should be the first thing you read on IMDb. I don't know.
But if they're still alive, then, now the studios can sue them or Orange County.
I'm going to send them the IMDb.
It says here. They're like Soul Survivor, the 1970s TV movie? No. Just kidding. But yeah, other than that, what else did you think?
I think this movie borders, it's not necessarily like a horror movie. It almost borders on a thriller. Because you kind of feel this like chase between that she's like, her world is kind of closing in, the main character. And there's like some supernatural stuff going on that she's not really like being cognitive of until the end. I almost feel like that stuff. It's hard to have a definitive opinion for me, because it's like this movie was shot like 40 years ago, right? Roughly. So
yeah,
I am not that audience, so I don't know if this would have worked for me 40 years ago or 20 years ago if I would have seen it. You know what I mean?
No.
Because
40 years ago, you were either like a fetus or just like a little baby.
Yeah. I could probably tell you.
So you probably wouldn't understand this movie even less. You'd understand it even less.
I knew it in my soul, John. I knew it. I wasn't born yet. It was released in January 27th, 1984. So. And, yeah, so then it's like the comparison, the plot is very much compared to Final Destination.
Yes. And apparently Tom Eberhardt, who's the guy that wrote the screenplay for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, this is the directorial debut, based all this on Carnival of Souls, which is another movie we wanted to review. We just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah. And so I don't know if like maybe more a modern approach to this movie, there would be a difference in me enjoying it, like, or finding it more scary. Because I feel like this movie is very 1984. It's very contemporary for that year.
Doesn't this movie also feel like very close to being remade by A24?
I feel like this movie, unfortunately, its premise has been made quite a bit throughout.
Like what movies? What movies could possibly be comparable to this?
Yeah, what is it? Budget was estimated around 350,000. That's pretty small.
Yeah.
Super small.
I mean, that's super small by today's standards. That's like a student film, basically.
Right, yeah, now.
Then that's still really cheap.
Yeah.
Because this was what was the company that made this movie? Because I remember thinking like, oh shit.
I don't even know, man. I didn't really have a memorable thing. But yeah, unfortunately it also tries to like squeeze in a lot of plot at the end. Like they're just trying to make it make sense, and then it just was kind of annoying. It just didn't work in my opinion.
No, yeah, and again, there's a weird choice at the very end that's made. But you know what? Actually, because I'm curious, as is everybody else listening to this podcast, can we go into spoilers so you can tell me what the spoilers are?
Yes. Now we're in spoilers.
Okay, what are the spoilers to this movie?
So
I'm not sure if I even understood what actually happened.
Okay. So from what I gather is
there's no soul survivor.
there's no more soul survivor. She dies at the end.
It was a lie. It was a ruse.
But essentially like death is come to kill her because she wasn't supposed to survive the plane crash. Which
yeah, came to collect. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's weird. Death's not like that. It's very patient. So yeah, essentially that's what it is. I guess it's not explicit. It's not really clear, but she survived the plane crash. But yet death was still going to kill her anyways. And they do try to like give it some like levity by saying that most people that survive traumatic experiences, this comes from her doctor boyfriend, that most people that survive these traumatic experiences usually die within 24 months or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Usually from suicide.
Usually from suicide, which we can gather could mean that that's quote unquote suicide, right? It could mean they're being fucking killed by death, which the way it's represented in this movie is he just sort of takes the look of dead people, right?
Yeah.
First I thought it was going to be passengers in the plane, but that doesn't really bear out, and it's pretty much anybody that's dead.
No. That died nearby.
That died nearby. He can like,
because we finally established that death is possessing these bodies for a little moment of time, and
it's not explicitly said. It's just more the word death is not explicitly said, but it's more like that's something like that. It's yeah, that's what it is. That's what you gather from it.
And that's mostly coming from our odd character, the actress or the struggling actress, who seems to be well off, by the way, according to her house. Very like Jennifer Tilly's, or yeah, Tiffany's idea of Jennifer Tilly and Chucky. She's got a lavish lifestyle.
Yeah, she
points out that she's warned people several times about this before, and this is her doing it one more time.
This character is one of those characters that like feels like she's there to do the big plot dump of the movie. Like, here's what's going on, and I'm going to tell you now.
But she ends up being the big plot twist.
Yeah. She ends up. It's so weird how like it's not really explained, but it's kind of inferred as so much that she has like some sort of like gift or something.
Yeah.
Not really a gift, but like she can see into the past or the future or some shit. Future, yeah. And because she sees the plane crash before it happens, right?
And then she had mentioned she had seen other things similar before too.
And she kind of understands more about it the most out of any of the other characters. Like she kind of knows what's up.
And it makes me wonder, because so I guess one big spoiler is she ends up being the person that killed her main protagonist because she had committed suicide.
Right.
And whatever this thing is, it, pretended to be her, making the protagonist feel safe. Which is the other thing, like I didn't understand the rules behind the how quickly this thing can jump to a body. Like that's on the other side of wherever. But so I guess it's like you're screwed no matter what. But then it made it seem like this lady felt like she was the one that needed to kill her. That's what I gathered when she was like committing suicide the moment before.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's very much like, yeah, strangely, it's funny, but yeah, it has a lot of similarities to like It Follows, the way it chases you. Like you run from it, but it'll eventually catch up to you.
I wonder if you can pull like a. Oh no, I guess this doesn't make sense. I'm gonna go off on a tangent real quick. I wonder if in It Follows you could defeat the thing by doing a flatliner scenario. I don't think it'll work on this because it's death.
No.
And also, I don't think anybody watched either Flatliners movies. Neither are very good, but I like the premise.
I think the what are the rules for that? It's you have to, for it to leave you alone, it has to be passed on.
Yes, unless they already got to that, like whatever it is, kills all those people, then it goes back to you.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
I don't think this will work for our protagonist.
Yeah. At least it's banging everybody.
But she doesn't have any friends. Like she starts to date this doctor guy. Seems to be the only other friend she has, and then she decides to be friends with the actress, psychic, and then she feels uncomfortable, so she goes to her neighbor's house because she used to.
Well, she even picks her up at the hospital too.
Yeah, which I thought was weird because that's like a teenage girl, right? Like they're in high
That's a
school.
teenage. Yeah, I didn't gather that the first time we meet her because she's like picking her up at a hospital. She's just driving, and then she's like, "I'm going to a party later." I guess the idea is that she's supposed to be young and careless or reckless or whatever because she's like going to parties and doing a lot of like.
But the teenage thing I got because the boy that she's hanging, they're playing strip poker before our protagonist goes over to interrupt, and she sees that guy leave and like, oh, isn't that little Bobby whatever? Wasn't he like a babysitter, like whatever, blah blah blah? And they're like, oh, he stopped doing that like 3 years ago.
Paperboy. He was the paperboy, but he had stopped.
Oh, paperboy, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she's like. Oh, do you mind if your mom lets me have a drink? I'm feeling old all of a sudden. Like,
I thought that was so weird because like she's doing the strip poker or whatever, and then she's like, "Oh, somebody's here. I got to clean up." I was like, "Why do you got to clean up? It's your house." I did not understand that she was a teenager until that scene. I was like, "Oh, okay. She's doing it because she's at her parents' house. She's a young, not teenager is not the right word, but she's young to where she needs to like stay home, and her parents are never there, right? So, and she's the neighbor's kid. That's her neighbor's kid.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So.
And the neighbors are going to come back to finding that their daughter has died. So.
Well, they never found the body. So.
No, they did.
Did they find the body?
It's
oh,
the first one
that's right. They did find it at the end. Yeah. And so basically, it's just like our main character being haunted by different people who die either by death, or let's just call it death for simplicity. The death was like killing all these people and then chasing her to kill her. Finally, she goes to the actress Carla, is what I'm reading her name is on our notes, and she says, that like, and then she dies. She gets killed, which I was like, man, that was kind of like unsatisfying the way they did it.
No, and she also gives like when she sees the actress lady and I guess can see that her wrist has been cut. She gives like a sigh of relief and a little smirk, like it's finally going to be over, which I thought was quite the choice since she's been running like crazy for like.
Yeah, but was she like that's like all it doesn't ratchet up for like the last 20 minutes. Like I literally looked to see the time, like it's 20 minutes and then she's finally starting to like run from it, and then for her to have that
she pulls a gun on the only black guy in this crowd of guys.
As you do in 1984 LA. Uh, yeah. Yeah. And then like, I was dissatisfied with that ending. In other words, like I was not happy with like, it makes sense. So it has that, but I can't, any of the interactions between our main character and this like actress like was never positive. They never were friends. So it's like hard to believe that she would go to her and for comfort when in reality it would have made more sense if she would have went to her for like give me more information about what's going on. She's behaving like she's like, oh, you're my friend and we're talking and stuff. Even though they've had bad interactions through this whole thing, even after she tells her about what's going to what's happening to her. So that never really added up for me.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a compliment sandwich. There's 2 moments that I really enjoyed in this movie. And then one thing I kind of didn't like about it because it got kind of annoying. The first is I really enjoyed the first time she encounters this thing, right? This entity, like death, right? Because she almost gets squished by a box truck. Right? The thing I didn't like about the movie was like it seemed like every single fucking moment was like a jump scare or trying to be.
Right.
So this was like the first moment where her friend taps her on the shoulder like, "Hey, what are you doing out here?" And it's like a jump scare because you couldn't hear her at all. And then she goes like, "Oh, this truck, whatever." She's like, "Oh, you got to be careful though. The brakes on these box trucks give out all the time." I'm like, what?
How does a teenager know that?
Yeah. And there was another moment I really enjoyed about the movie. I've forgotten it already. I guess it wasn't that great. Sorry. It's just a 1-for-1.
Yeah. Yeah. Not much else to say. I don't think the other moments really like there's a lot of scenes like that where there's just like weird people and stuff. Okay, go ahead.
I not like I liked the character, but I enjoyed the cabbie who I was like kind of doing the math. I'm like, oh, he charged her like 40 something bucks, so that must have been like far out of the city. Oh, like an hour, right? I think. But he was listening to like some sex conversation on the radio. And the conversation was like, what do you do for your man to turn him on? And like some lady's talking about doing naked exercises. And he's like, yeah. Oh, and then he decides to turn and like talk to her like, so what do you, just curious, enlighten me. What do you do to stimulate your man? And she's like, you gotta be, what was the expression, having me on? I forgot the way that expression goes. But then like just finally leaves the thing and I'm like, what a weird character. But then he gets killed off because he's trying to pick up a hitchhiker that ended up being the thing again. So how does this thing travel? Now that I'm talking about it out loud. You know what? I'm going to
Cab.
Yes, right. Possess the cab driver to take his car to go back to town.
Leave the meter off so I can drive.
This might be the prequel to It Follows, where eventually the thing's like grandson is so dumb that the It Follows thing only walks.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I never taught it to drive.
Yeah, and I guess it ends with like the coroner figuring out that the deaths don't make sense, and then he's like. I thought it was funny. He's like, "Oh man, I'm gonna write this up. They're gonna know everything." He starts to set his typewriter paper.
He's just like saying it out loud, and there's like what's like all the bodies are there, like not covered, just on top of
just
gurneys.
stacked up on each other. Yeah,
in no like sort of order too, right? They're kind of just thrown out there, like not
like he hasn't been looking at them. They're just all just rolled in there, and he's like. He's figured out, oh no, I gotta write all this up. And of course, like as he has his back to write the report, like the neighbor girl pops back up. Like I'm just assuming to kill him, but I think that's how the movie ends, right? Like
Yes, which I didn't understand. Like, what did he have to do with it? But I guess I don't know.
Well, he completely explained very loudly and to himself, to everybody in the room, what's going on, and figured out the whole plot of what was gonna unmask the whatever the fuck was going on, Death's plan.
So I'm gonna make some sort of logic. I think this is what the writers or the director, or I guess he was both, had envisioned. So the reason the neighbor girl's possessed body was like down the road halfway was because it was like, oh, I gotta walk all the way over here to kill this chick in the town.
Yeah.
And then saw her drive by and was like, ah, shit. Well, hopefully this cabbie wants to be a jerk and assault me.
Right.
And then I'll kill him, use his car to get to the house.
And
if that doesn't work,
I'm gonna sneak in and stand in this room until they come back.
What I'm gonna do is use the landline, kind of like in the Matrix, to transfer my entity into this actress who I know just killed herself because I'm Death. And that's where I'll get her.
Yeah. See, it would have made more sense if the body that came up was our protagonist. She's there.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that made no sense.
Yeah,
to me.
like had it been her, it would have made like, okay, it got passed on. Now she's killing people or something. You know, it kind of makes more sense that we see the antagonist in this state or whatever. It's just kind of hammer home their point about Death always, I don't know, finding a way or whatever to kill their. Or
I feel like it would have answered a lot of questions if they all came up at the same time.
Well, yeah, that would have been weird because then it'd be like, I think there's only one. He did like only one thing, and he can only possess like one body at a time.
But you remember, like, trying to make logic out of it. I was like, how did this thing possess this body? Way the hell over here then?
Yeah.
So if it was like several,
how
and maybe it just likes to fuck with people.
How did it get anywhere? You know what I mean? Like
cab.
It would have been almost better if they had just kept it to the other survivors of the plane, like not survivors, excuse me, the victims of the plane crash. Like that would have been made more sense because then you could easily track like, well, she keeps seeing the people she died with, and they're all coming back to get her.
And I think they all have to be dead, and all their blood has to go down to their legs.
Mm-hmm. That's how he figured it out.
I don't know what that means, but yeah, because Arthur, our coroner guy, is very adamant about like, then how come all the blood was in their legs? Hmm?
Well, to him, it made sense. I mean, he's a coroner. Maybe he knows something that we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add to that, or
no?
Okay. Let's move over to ratings. Let's rate the movie. John, how many sexy spooky bones do you want to give it?
How many sexy spooky bones will you give it? Sexy bones. Ooh, sexy bones. Rolando and Johnny. Show us your sexy spooky bones. No, wait, don't do that. Just rate the movie.
I'm going to give Soul Survivor 4 sexy spooky bones.
4. Yeah, I started at an 8. Like I was in, man. I was 100% in. I was enjoying the movie. I was like, wow, this is like a hidden gem or whatever I can recommend. Until, you know, it didn't really go anywhere, you know, exciting after that. So I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, how could they have improved this movie? Do you think they could pull something from this movie, an idea, and franchise it?
I'm so glad you said that, because today, which you'll hear in 3 weeks, we're announcing what we're watching for Halloween. Because every Halloween, we watch an entire film franchise.
In reverse.
Thank you.
No, we're not doing that this year.
We've done reverse Nightmare on Elm Street. We've done Paranormal Activity, and Halloween. And this will be our 4th year. So this is going to be the 4th entry. And it's going to be what they say this movie is based on, which is Final Destination. All 5 movies, which they're making a 6th one. So it's immediately when we put these out, the 6th one will come out and it immediately disqualifies all the stuff we watched. So maybe we'll watch 6 within the time it comes out, and then we can just like pretend to listen to it and add it to our series that we're going to do for October.
We couldn't. Let us know in the comments below if you want us to review nothing but prequels to beloved movies, because there seems to be 1,000 now.
And we're going to give them the title of this Halloween series, Soul Survivors, The Final Destination Saga.
Yes.
I like long titles, so it's going to be long.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. So you excited about Final Destination?
Jesus.
I know, I heard that.
Yeah, they're moving furniture upstairs. I don't know. They're excited. Yes. I don't know if like this is gonna sound like sacrilege. I don't think I was ever a big fan of these movies, but I saw all of them in theaters. I think maybe not the 5th one or the 4th one, but
I remember liking the first one, and then
Devon Sawa, right?
Devon Sawa.
No, it's
because we're a Devon Sawa podcast. Yeah, you know that. We're only a Devon Sawa podcast. We don't review horror movies anymore. Was it? Yeah, I think I liked the first one. I think I saw the second one, and then I quickly fell off. So I optimistically going into this with high expectations that it's gonna not fail, especially like tangentially. I kind of know some stuff that happened, so I want to see if it kind of makes sense and works, how they pull certain things off, without going into those details. But so
just remember, this is prime early aughts.
So new metal soundtracks. I can't wait. You might get some reviews on that. I'm gonna look it up. But
it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's gonna be fun. Hopefully, we'll see. High expectations over here. But alrighty. All right, guys, gals, non-binary pals. Thank you for listening. As always,
stay spooky.